Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Cut Penn State some slack. James Franklin is coming off his first losing season with the Nittany Lions, but a major reason for that was opt-outs, injuries, obviously COVID, and a demoralizing season opening loss to Indiana. The Nittany Lions started 0-5 but won their final 4 games by an average of 19 points per game. And yes, they will bounce back in 2021. So again, guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here to predict Penn State's record and their schedule for this upcoming college football season. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of our videos from now until the beginning of the season. Also, make sure to sign up for our brand new expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. The link for that is down in the description below. We are offering up some of the best college football and now NFL spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. So make sure to go give that a look. Again, thegridironexpert.com down in the description. So we're going to take a look at Penn State today, and this is a team that went 4-5, guys. 4-5. Everybody was so disappointed because they started the season at number 8 in the country. But again, when you factor in everything that James Franklin had to deal with, it's understandable why the Nittany Lions seem to take a major step back. Give them credit, though, for the way that they finished, now carrying tons of momentum into 2021. We take a look at their roster. 7 starters back on the offensive side of the ball. And despite the poor record, Penn State had some very solid ranks in the Big Ten when it came to both offense and defense. They ranked in the top 5 in the Big Ten in scoring, rushing, passing, and total offense. And now, they bring in a brilliant offensive mind in Mike Yurcich as their offensive coordinator, James Franklin stealing him away from Texas when the Longhorns went through all of their major coaching changes. Sean Clifford returns at quarterback, threw for over 1,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, but did have 9 interceptions. The Nittany Lions as a whole committed 17 turnovers. That number has to change. That number drastically has to decrease if the Nittany Lions want to bounce back in a big way in 2021. Clifford is back, and that's huge to have consistency at the quarterback position. Noah Cain is back at running back after suffering a devastating foot injury in the season opener against Indiana, one that left him out for the entire season. So they have a solid running back returning. And then you have Jahan Dotson, who had 884 yards and 8 touchdowns last year, averaged 17 yards per reception. This offense, guys, is set. They are not devoid of talent. The offense is going to be just fine. And you can make the case the defense will too. 7 are back on that side of the ball for Penn State. A top 30 unit in the country in rushing, passing, and total defense. Yes, only 1 starter returns from the defensive line. That is certainly their weak spot. But Ellis Brooks returns as their leading tackler from last year at linebacker, and their secondary returns 3 starters led by Tariq Castro Fields. This Penn State team, guys, has the talent to get back to a New Year's Six bowl game. And if they pull off an upset or two, maybe even contend for a Big Ten championship. That's how good I think this team can be. Forget what you saw last year. Focus on what we know and what they can be this year. We take a look at Penn State's schedule. It's not easy. It's not easy. They have some very difficult games. Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, all on the road. And of course, playing Indiana and Michigan in a non-conference game against Auburn. It's not going to be easy for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions. They open up the year at Wisconsin. And that's, to me, a battle of the bounce-back teams. Whoever wins this is going to really kick off their season on a high, show they're ready to get back. The other might have to wait another week or two. Because Wisconsin disappointed last year, going just 4-3 after a very dominating start to the year. Now, granted, like many, Wisconsin was hit hard by COVID. That's a major reason why their season got derailed. But you look at the Badgers. Their star quarterback in Graham Mertz returns. We didn't get to see much of him last year because he was one of the players hit hard by COVID. But when we did see him, he was phenomenal. He had a great arm, great accuracy, pretty solid decision-making, and that was just as a freshman. He'll be even better now in year 2. Their offensive line, of course, is absolutely loaded. What else would you expect from a Paul Chryst-led team? And they return 8 starters on the defensive side of the ball, one that ranks in the top 10 nationally in scoring, rushing, allowing just 96.1 rushing yards per game, and total defense. And the one thing that I think was the difference maker in this game, guys, for the one against Penn State, or for Penn State against Wisconsin, is Wisconsin's offensive line. The fact that their offensive line, I think, is going to just bully Penn State's defensive line, which, as we said, seems to be a weakness on the defensive side of the ball. Wisconsin knows how to dominate in the trenches. They will dominate this game in the trenches. They'll dominate the time of possession. They'll play at their pace. They have home field advantage, the season opener. All things to me point to a Wisconsin win, and that's what we're going to do. Penn State drops their first game of the season against the Badgers. They bounced back, though, in week 2 when they played Ball State. Yes, Ball State, they won the MAC last year, had a phenomenal year, but they're not going to have enough to come into Happy Valley and get the win. Let's be real here. So Penn State defeats Ball State. They then host Auburn, and many think this could be the potential whiteout game for Penn State. You know how big a deal that is, and how big a deal it certainly will be in 2021 now that we can have full capacity across the country. They play Auburn, a team that has a brand new head coach themselves in Brian Harsin, and I think he made some phenomenal hires. Offensive coordinator Mike Bobo comes in. Defensive coordinator Derek Mason comes in. Derek Mason, former head coach at Vanderbilt. You look at Auburn, 16 starters are back for the Tigers, but can Tank Bigsby carry the Tigers to victory in this game? Because we know Bo Nix can't. Bo Nix is a mediocre quarterback at best. We know that. We've seen that. And I don't know if Brian Harsin is going to be able to work any quarterback magic with Bo Nix just 3 weeks into the season. We know that Tank Bigsby is one of the better running backs in the entire country. But Penn State had one of the better rushing defenses in the entire country. So can he figure something out? Can Auburn's offense figure something out? Their defense from last year allowed 406 total yards per game, and that could end up being a downside for them as they have to come on the road and they're facing a veteran quarterback, a veteran running back, and a very solid wide receiver core in the Nittany Lions. I like Penn State in this game. A lot of people will make the argument, SEC better than Big Ten. Auburn's going to be better than you think. I'm not seeing it, at least not this early in the year. Penn State defeats the Tigers in Happy Valley in a primetime, nationally televised game. And that might just show that Penn State really is ready to bounce back. They beat Auburn, they beat Villanova, and then they get into the bulk of Big Ten Conference play when they start off against Indiana. And talk about a revenge game, guys. Talk about a revenge game. Remember at the beginning of this video, we said a demoralizing loss to Indiana in the first game of the year for Penn State last year. Lost to the Hoosiers 36-35 in overtime on the road. And a final play with that 2-point conversion that some still say Penix wasn't in, and some will always say that he was in. Whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter. Damage is done now. But you know Penn State's going to be out ready to get revenge in this game. In Happy Valley. That's the big thing. Indiana's going to be good, guys. 17 starters back. This is still an 8, maybe 9, maybe 10-win team for Tom Allen in Bloomington. But they lose their defensive coordinator in Cain. They're not going to put up the same defensive numbers that they had last year, despite returning so much on that side of the ball. And I genuinely believe that Penn State wins this game in Happy Valley against Indiana. A good Indiana team, but revenge plays a major role in college football, guys. Whether you want to believe it or not, home field advantage will play a bigger role than we've ever seen before. I love Penn State in this game. I will be shocked if they fail to win this game. And we're going to give the Nittany Lions a win over a good potential top 15 Hoosiers team at the beginning of October. So after dropping the game against Wisconsin, guys, Penn State has now strung together 4 straight victories, a quality one against Auburn, another quality one against Indiana, but now they have to go back on the road for the first time since week 1 when they take on Iowa in Kinnick Stadium. And right there, that makes me nervous. It should make anybody nervous. When you hear, we have to go to Kinnick Stadium, you're in trouble. Because as we all know, Iowa, Kinnick Stadium is one of the most difficult places to play in the entire country. Last year, Iowa came into Happy Valley, beat Penn State 41-21. They beat them 41-21. And again, that was in the middle of Penn State's horrible start to the season. Still trying to find their identity, still trying to figure things out with all the opt-outs and the injuries they were dealing with. It should be noted, though, that while Kinnick Stadium is so difficult, Penn State has won the last 3 games at Iowa. The last 2 coming by combined 7 points. So not much room for error for the Nittany Lions, but they can get it done at Kinnick. But I don't think they're going to be able to get it done this year. Iowa is a scary good team in 2021. Spencer Petras is back at quarterback. Tyler Goodson is back at running back. And like we mentioned with Wisconsin, how dominant they are on the offensive line, the same can be said for Iowa, and we know how strong Kirk Ferentz's defenses always are with the Hawkeyes. At Kinnick Stadium, with a veteran team for Iowa, I like the Hawkeyes taking down Penn State in what could be yet another close one-possession game at Kinnick Stadium like we've seen many years and many times before. So Penn State drops that game. They're 4-2 going into their bye week, and you can't help but wish, if you're Penn State, that your bye week came before the Ohio State game, not before the Illinois game, because we can chalk it up as a quick win for the Nittany Lions. I mean, Illinois, they beat them 56-21 last year. They beat the Fighting Illini by 35 points last year. And now Illinois is dealing with a brand new head coach. Brett Bielema comes in. Yes, they returned Brandon Peters at quarterback. Yes, they have 15 returning starters. That doesn't matter. We thought that could matter last year. Illinois finally made a bowl game under Lovie Smith, had so much excitement and so much high expectations in 2020, and they had a major letdown. They disappointed big time. Now dealing with tons of new schemes, facing a Penn State team off of rest in Happy Valley, no chance for Illinois. They then travel to Ohio State. That's the big one, guys. I mean, depending on how Ohio State's doing, how Indiana has fared, how Penn State has fared, if they are able to somehow be undefeated coming into this game, maybe even just a one-loss team, only lost to Wisconsin or Iowa, but not both. This game could very well determine who wins the East, because we think Penn State can be that good. But like we mentioned earlier, this game is in Columbus, and that's not ideal. You're facing an Ohio State team that, yes, has quarterback questions, whether it's going to be C.J. Stroud, who we think it will be, or Jack Miller III. They're going to be facing a freshman quarterback regardless. But what they tend to forget is that Master Teague is back at running back for Ohio State. Ohio State's entire offensive line is back, or the majority of their offensive line, I should say. They have the best wide receiver duo in the country in Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And I believe that while Ohio State's defense will struggle at times, they're going to be ready to go, and they're going to have fixed a lot of issues by October 30th. They're not playing them so early on in the year, but it will still be a concern for me. In Columbus, Ohio State gets a win here. While it could be close, last year it was just 38-25. While it could be close, I don't think Penn State has enough yet to win this game. Maybe I would pick an upset if it was in Happy Valley, but I'm not picking it on the road. So they lose to Ohio State. It's their third loss of the year, but luckily for Penn State, look at the month of November. While many freak out in the month of November and how wild it can be for college football, Penn State gets a favorable one. Michigan and Rutgers at home, and their two road games are Maryland and Michigan State. None of those teams would scare me. All of those teams had losing records last year. Penn State should be favored in all of them. They start at Maryland. They lost to Maryland last year, 35-19 in Happy Valley. Talia Tagovailoa annihilated the Nittany Lions in that game. But Talia was a little inconsistent, 7 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. It should also be noted that Maryland allowed 230 rushing yards per game last year. 230 rushing yards per game last year. You could see Noah Cain have a big game against the Terrapins on the road, especially considering Maryland's linebacking core is still relatively thin. The Terrapins should improve in 2021. We don't think they will. Penn State goes on the road, notches a win, gets revenge over a team that embarrassed them on their home turf last year. They then play Michigan. As we all know, Michigan and Penn State tend to just alternate wins. Whoever the home team is usually wins between the Wolverines and the Nittany Lions. Penn State kind of broke that trend last year when they went into the Big House, when they went into Ann Arbor and beat Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines 27-17. That game actually started Penn State's 4-game winning streak to end 2020. And I think they continue. They notched their second straight win over Michigan in 2021. While Michigan's defense is going to be stout, they're going to be solid, they have questions at quarterback too. And the offense has always been an issue with Jim Harbaugh. In Happy Valley, with an offense that may or may not have finally figured things out, but a place where Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines have always struggled to play, Penn State gets a win over the Wolverines. They notch a win over Rutgers. They beat the Scarlet Knights 23-7 last year. And while Rutgers returns 19 starters, they still lack offensive consistency and still need some help on the defensive side of the ball. And it's in Happy Valley. We're always forgetting home field advantage, guys. I'm not placing that on every pick. It doesn't make or break every game, but it will play a major role in 2021. They notched a win over Rutgers, and they travel on the road to play Michigan State to conclude the year. They beat the Spartans 39-24 in 2020. The Spartans do not return much talent this year. They get a transfer quarterback in Anthony Russo from Temple, but they only average 18 points per game on offense while giving up over 35 on defense. While Mel Tucker's squad could improve ever so slightly, it will not be enough to go bowling, and it will not be enough to defeat Penn State, even though the game is in East Lansing. And having said all of that, guys, it kind of is somewhat poetic. Not only does Penn State have a major bounce-back year, 4-5 in 2020 to 9-3 for us here in 2021, but just like last year, Penn State ended 2020 on a 4-game winning streak. They will end their season on a 4-game winning streak again in 2021. And at 9-3, will be right on the border of potentially making a New Year's Six bowl game. But regardless, we'll return to the postseason. We'll go to a quality bowl game no matter what. And James Franklin will have this program back on track and in the hunt for a Big Ten title as soon as next year. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of our predictions over the course of this offseason. Also, make sure to sign up for our expert picks down in the description below on thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best picks for some of the lowest prices in the entire country. Do not miss out on that. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.